piano roll. So let's look at the piano roll, and we're going to do this under the context of adding a bass part. So very first we need to actually add a bass part. And I think what we'll add for this one is the Boo Bass or the 404 Bassline synthesizer. Those are a couple of good ones. Let's stick with the synthesizer first. Let's hear how that sounds. Playing that on my MIDI keyboard, which we'll talk about in a tutorial coming up. And we can actually change how this sounds via this control panel here. We have two oscillators. An oscillator is the basic fundamental sound source. You can see they have little wave shapes here drawn out for you, and different combination of these create that sound, mixed in with an envelope which tells you how fast the sound is going to start, sustain, and decay. And then we can add some filters, which is going to add or remove different parts of the high or low or mid frequencies to sculpt the sound. So we have some options with this, and it gives us a lot of power. However, synthesis is one of those techniques which we're going to have to devote a whole tutorial to later in this course because it is such a complex thing. So we'll do that at another point. If you need to know right now, skip ahead to that particular tutorial and we'll cover it there. Okay, so what we want to do though is explore something else. We want to explore the actual piano roll. So what we're going to do now is come in here, and I'm going to switch to the piano roll view. Now I did that by right clicking, going to piano roll. That does a couple things. Number one, it brings up this window here. It leaves these the same until we draw some notes. Now we have some basic tools here. Once I hit a note here, you'll see that this changes. Now for a little more in-depth look at the piano roll, definitely go to the VTC course on FL Studio 7, because not a lot has changed with this, so I don't want to cover necessarily all the tools once more, but I will give you some of the most important ones here as we talk about some of the creative tools. What this allows us to do, though, is look at the sound sources in a completely different way than the step sequencer, which goes through one note at a time in this whole sequence. This gives us a grid with all the notes on the left side, so vertical, and then duration horizontal. So I can actually come in, grab a note, drag it wherever I want. Drag it out, and then draw in new notes as well. Push play. Okay, so a couple things we need to look at here. Number one, you can draw a note by left clicking using the pencil tool, and to erase it you can right click. You can also adjust the edge by going to the edge and clicking and dragging, and once you set a new length of a note, the next note you draw is going to have that same length. So if I shorten this by half, draw a new note, it's going to be the same length as the one I just changed. Right click to delete each of those. So I can come in here and draw a lot of stuff out. I can also lengthen the notes. However, the sound source is a very short note, so it's not going to actually hold anything out here. So that's something you got to keep in mind. It's not going to do anything that the actual sound source can't do. So I can come out here, right click, and say replace, and we can find a different sound if we want. So that's another one here. That sounds a little bit low. So I want to actually take this up an octave. So I'm going to use the pencil tool. I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard, which allows me to select the notes. I'm going to hover over one of the notes, which changes to the Move tool. I'm going to pull it up an octave. Let's hear this now. Okay, so maybe not the most interesting bass part, we can fine tune that, but you get the idea, and this is really a powerful tool that you're going to be able to use in a lot of different ways to fine tune any MIDI performances you want, and etc. Now just real quickly, the other tools you may want to use here, the knife tool allows us to cut things, and what you do is you click and drag, and it draws a line across any notes. And so if we actually had a couple notes here we want to cut, if the line goes through them, it's going to cut them. So you can see how that works. So we can do some interesting stutter effects with the bass, etc. We can also use the select tool, and we can also use the zoom tool, and then we can also do a little bit of an audition. And then we have some other tools we're going to look at in just a couple of tutorials. So this is a good introduction to the piano roll. Let's move on and talk about some other ways we're going to use this.